Welcome to a new episode of Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, a host, and today we'll talking about the Misfits with a man who wrote a pretty goddamn good book called The Red Seven by Rebel Dean. I fucked up that sentence, but it mostly makes sense. Rebel, hey, welcome.
Hey.
Yeah, so you wrote a book called The Red Seven. I'm not messing up the title, am I?
No, it's the Red Seven.
Okay, it's a whole western, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like Tarantino-y in the respect that it's a revenge western. It's super, a bounty hunter kills 7 people.
Yeah, if someone is listening to this podcast and they just listen to what you said and they don't go buy the book, I don't know why they downloaded this episode because, come on. Has the Misfits ever done a Western song?
To be honest with you, the song American Nightmare is kind of rockabilly, and It's got a really jangly, westerny feel to it.
There's a band that I'm not going to be... Oh, Ghoul Town. Do you know that band?
No, I don't.
So it's basically if the Misfits lived in Texas and they just sing about like zombies and ghouls getting drunk and killing people in the Old West. There's
an entire genre of music that evolved out of the Misfits. It's psychobilly. And,
yes.
There's an entire thing. There's a lot of bands like Calabrese, and then I can't think of. I mean, I would even count like Tiger Army in it. Tiger Army, like purists will bust my balls all day long for putting him in psychobilly or whatever, but there's a strong line of DNA that comes from the Misfits with embracing horror, embracing like ghouls and zombies and shit like that. But the
Misfits, they were the first ones to embrace the genre in music. Am I correct about this?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I always tell people if you can draw a singular line of Black Sabbath being the penultimate most important band in metal, the Misfits are probably 1 or 2 levels there. They're just as important to punk and metal as Metallica is, and even in some respects more so, for the sake of that Metallica were wearing Misfits t-shirts when they first started. Cliff Burton had a Crimson Ghost tattoo on his arm, and chances are he probably died wearing a Misfits t-shirt. He was that big of a fan. And so they're central to the DNA of punk and metal. Like, I sincerely believe that the Misfits don't get the credit that they deserve. Like, they exist in the popular lexicon of the people who listen to the genre, but the Crimson Ghost is just as recognizable as the Misfits. I mean, the Black Flag bars or the Ramones circular logo with, the Johnny, Joey, Marky, and Dee Dee logo. And honestly, I think that the Crimson Ghost is probably more so recognizable than a lot of that stuff.
I would agree, man. It's basically a whole symbol like that goes beyond just the fucking band. I mean, anyone who's a fan of the genre at all in books or movies, they recognize that symbol even if they don't listen to the music.
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of one of the things about them is at this point, they're so ingrained into popular culture. Like, if you like rock and roll or you like metal or whatever, there is the DNA of that band. Over the last 40 years, they've infected every corner of the music, because if you type in your favorite Misfits song on YouTube, you will probably see a band you like recovering them at some point or another.
Do you know much about how the band basically got together? Like, what began this? I want to make a band. I want to make a band about the fucking. I want to make spooky songs. I want to sing about Halloween. Like, was Glenn Danzig in a band before this? I know nothing about Danzig.
Um, Generally, the DNA of the band is they formed in Lodi, New Jersey, and it was Danzig, Jerry Only, and this dude Manny Martinez, but Martinez dropped out pretty much almost immediately. So the two consistent people were Danzig and Jerry Only, and they when you see early photos of them, they're just a punk band, and then it kind of as you start to see the band develop is when you see them like embracing Halloween, embracing really dark themes. And it took a while to get through everything. They formed in 1977 and they kind of just kept going back and forth and getting it. I mean, the band was named after Marilyn Monroe's final film.
Yeah, I knew that.
So
Yeah.
they really figured it out as they were going along. I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of secret, sauce formula that was going on. It was just that they kind of thought about, well, we wanted to be different than everybody else because they were a Max's Kansas City band versus CBGB's. And so they embraced a darker club because CBGB's definitely had all of the stuff like Ramones, Blondie, and everything that was happening on that front. But if you look at the lore of Max's Kansas City, it was much more harder punk. The beginnings of the earliest stages of hardcore and everything came from that as well. I mean, CB's obviously is just as clearly as important and is a part of the popular lexicon as well. But they were a Max's Kansas City band, and they were figuring themselves out there. And so they just gradually started figuring it out, like, let's wear all black, let's embrace that we like horror movies and 1950s sci-fi. And it really just, it was Jerry and Glenn kind of running with it, and it worked. I mean,
I love it, man. It's just the old movies they sing about. They're such geeks about it, but it's such a genuine love that you can't help but love it. Because I mean, those are the movies I also like, and it's just it's cool to see a band just embrace it with such a tenacity, man. They just went with it.
yeah, because they did Static Age, and Static Age was you get it's there's still some of my favorite songs are on Static Age. And as they developed on and on and on, as kind of you just see it, and they just shifted how they looked, and it just worked. And then they kind of started doing their hair in the devil lock, and next thing you know, the next song they write is Bullet, and Bullet takes off. The punks are blown away by the fact that they stuck a picture of Kennedy getting his head blown off and singing about it. Because if you really think about it, the bands at the time, everything was the Ramones, like, I want to be your boyfriend, I want to hold your hand, I want to do this with you, I want to be sedated. And the Misfits are like, I want your skull.
That was one of the best T-shirts I've ever seen in my life. I used to have one when I was a kid, the Kennedy headshot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite songs as a kid by the Misfits contained the line, "I raped a baby today." Now, what do you
That's
think
Last
about that
Caress.
song? Yes, that song is fantastic, but I have no way of explaining why to someone who has not listened to it.
I was at the show. I went up to Chicago and I went to the show, and I remember standing there singing. I was screaming the lyrics to Last Caress, and I'm like, holy fuck, you could never be in this band today because everyone would hate you for singing this shit. But for some reason, it worked out and they got the cultural pass. I'm happy they got the cultural pass because they're one of my favorite bands. Happy enough that I cried when I saw them. And also the Misfits is kind of, it's not super serious, and it's not kind of, I don't know, it feels different, and it's not gross. And
Yeah, they seem to just be having fun.
yeah, I mean, it's stupid songs written in 1977 that kind of people ran with. I mean, there's entire conspiracy theories about what We Are 138 means.
That was going to be one of my questions as well. What do you think it means?
There's an entire so this dude did it on Reddit. What is it? A guy went on this entire thing on Reddit and
Yeah.
he kind of figured it out and he said, and it's really fascinating. So if you're listening and you're like, I want to know what that is, it's about Hermann Goring at the Nuremberg trial. And so all Danzig has ever said, it's about violence. And people were like, oh, it's for THX 1138. But that's not what a lot of people believe in. And so this again is about if you go on Reddit, this thread is insane of how
Yeah.
detailed this is. And so the idea is that Hermann Goring was he was given a psychological test during the Nuremberg trials,
Yeah.
and he gave them all IQ tests, and Goring scored 138, and he was also the highest ranking Nazi that the Allies caught, and he was highly unapologetic for all the atrocities that were committed around him. And it goes on through the lyrics. He talks about how he did experiments on tigers, and there's in the eyes of tigers is part of the thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really centering in on that, and it's talking about how like this guy's a psychotic fucking killer.
Whoa.
That's the you know that's the prevailing thing because he's never said it publicly what We Are 138 means. And so probably for good optics, Danzig's like, yo, this song just bangs and we're just never going to talk about what I was reading about when I wrote this when I was 19 years old,
Yeah.
40 fucking years ago.
Now, I have a quick question. Are you indeed a goddamn son of a bitch?
I have definite son of a bitch propensity, so probably yes.
Okay. That was one of my main questions, so I'll cross that off. When did you discover the Misfits? At what age?
I was about 10.
Yeah. I
I
think I was about the same.
Yeah, I've always kind of just I had a dad that was super into rock and roll. Like we grew up on old country music, the blues and hard rock. That's pretty much and like the Allman Brothers. So we would go from Black Sabbath to Muddy Waters to Willie Nelson in a car ride. So for me, I've always gravitated towards that. And since I was a little kid, I've been wearing black t-shirts with skulls on them. And so there used to be this rock and roll store called The Alley in Chicago.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
I know it.
remember, yeah,
I've been to it. Yeah.
they had a second alley on the south side at Ford City Mall. And there was a skateboard shop that I used to go to. And then there was the alley. And I remember looking in this big basket of stickers and stuff. And I had like $4 in my pocket. And I remember seeing a sticker that said the Misfits Fiend Club. And I just thought the sticker looked super cool. And I bought the sticker and I put it on the seat of my bike. And then that was my introduction to the band was through the sticker. And I had no idea they were a band. I just thought it looked cool. It's like, they're a Fiend Club, And
Yeah.
then that was about 10. And then within the next year, the doors blew open for me because I was 11. And then this was 1992. So 92, I was 11 and Nirvana broke. The Black Album came out. And all of a sudden I'm seeing Metallica in Misfits t-shirts. I started liking grunge and all this different stuff happening. And I started seeing the Misfits logo. I was like, holy shit, that's a band. And then I kind of heard them. And by the time I was about 13, I actually had one of their CDs. And so by the time I was in middle school, I was already like into them. And, it was always punk and metal pretty much all the way growing up to today. I mean, I like a lot of different music now, like old country and all that shit too. But my essential DNA is punk and metal.
Nice. I think I was 9, maybe 10. My brother, who's 10 years older than I am, he was a big fan, and he had brought home the Coffin box set,
Yeah.
and we just kind of went through it like crazy and just obsessed over it. And that's pretty much what made me a fan for life. I know the skateboard shop you're talking about because I bought a deck with the Crimson Skull on it from that place, and it was like the best thing I ever owned until it broke.
Yeah, I remember those decks. I think that Creature put them out.
I don't know. I was too young to pay attention to the brands.
Yeah, I think Creature put that deck out because I mean, I just skateboarding is still something to this day. At almost 38, I still absolutely love.
Oh man, I
And
haven't. I gave that up. I I'm too clumsy to do anything,
I
Bobby.
can't. I can only old man skate at this point. I don't
Yeah,
claim to be good. It's fun, and I'm still very much a fan of the inside, like the total insular culture of skating.
yeah.
But um, no, it was I got the Misfits box set. I was dating a girl. I was about 20, and that was like what 2001, and
Nice.
she was like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, I've always wanted the Misfits box set because it was $100.
It was expensive, yeah.
Yeah, it was $100, and I was like, "Yo, I want the Misfits box set." She's like, "Of all the things you want as a 20-year-old, you want a coffin box of guys that wear skull makeup." I was like, "Yes, that's what I want." And she was like, "I'll get you your stupid fucking coffin box."
Well,
And
that
so,
was rude.
yeah, no, she hated all kind. She was mean to me, and she got me the coffin box, and I was so jazzed. I still have it today.
How long have you guys been married?
That's not my wife.
I'm fucking with you. What type of music does she like then? Let's make fun of Bill.
Oh, I mean, she actually didn't have that bad a taste in music. She just didn't get metal and punk and stuff. But what she listened to actually wasn't that bad, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, that's no fun.
Yeah, you really can't dog her. I mean, she had good taste in music, so it's.
I want you to be honest. How many times have you tried to grow a devil lock?
I've never tried to grow a devil lock, but I have certainly given myself one in the shower, and I do when my kids have their hair wet. I give them devil locks all the time.
Okay, thank you. I've tried many times. It does not look great on me.
No, I mean I don't. Most people look like douchebags when they do it, but
Oh yeah.
for some reason when Jerry only does it, it looks cool. Like Danzig doesn't even do that anymore. He's like, oh man, I'm Danzig. I'm not doing anything like that.
It's okay to do it in the privacy of your own home when no one can see, but once you go outside, you gotta comb that back.
Yeah, there wasn't even many people sporting the devil lock that I saw when I went to the show.
So tell me about this show. I mean, I want to know everything about it from when you got in and until when you left. Walk me
I
through it.
I wrote an actual. If somebody wants to see the article I wrote, I did write an article for Farce the Music, which was a recap of my experience.
I will
But
definitely link that in the show notes.
no, they got back together because for me, the Misfits were the ultimate. I mean, I've been to a lot of shows. I've been going to live music since my first show was in 1994, Lollapalooza, and I've never stopped going to shows since. I've been to over 500 of them.
Wow.
And you can run a list like, have you seen this band? And I've probably seen them. And it's just always been a huge part of my life. And I saw the Misfits when they got back together in the 90s with Michael Graves as their singer, and or as this Misfits group I'm a part of on Facebook calls them Cat Turd, because there's a real long. I get the Michael Graves thing, but I just don't think it's the same band.
What
But
albums was he on?
he did
Was he like the Milligan Night Mill guy?
yeah, like
Okay.
America. What was it? It's fucking like. He did Saturday Night and Famous Monsters, I think is the name of the one, and he did 2 records with them. And again,
Who was doing Project 1950? Was that only?
yeah, that was we always call them Jerry and the Fits. It was
Oh,
basically like him and a bunch of fucking C-level punk dudes, anybody that he could get to basically be in the band. And I think that like part of the gig with Danzig getting back, like them talking about it and doing shows. If you notice, they don't do shit. Like Jerry only isn't out there peddling fucking dolls with his face on it, and they're not, he's not out there playing clubs. Because the last time the Misfits came to Austin was they played at Beerland, and like it's Jerry only and a bunch of dudes, and it sounds awful, and they played Beerland. Versus now they play a couple of shows a year, and 30,000 people. It'll be a sellout, paying $150 a ticket for them to play the greatest hits. And I'm sure old Glenn was like, "Look, this is how this is gonna go." And Jerry was probably like, "Fine, fuck it. I want my moment of glory," and he's getting it. He's getting to play arenas because Jerry only never got to play arenas. He was playing clubs this whole time. He was playing 500 seaters, and I mean, at the height of the Michael Graves thing, he was maybe doing, I don't know, maybe 800 people arenas. And so I don't know, but I saw them during that era, but that was 96, I think it was 96 or 97.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I got to see it, because up until that point it was like, well, I got to see Michael Graves' Misfits. I got to hear them do the songs as a cover band, essentially. But to get to see them do it live, they got back together during Riot Fest, and I was like, holy fuck. My entire social circle was blowing my phone up like, Misfits are back together. They're playing Chicago. Are you going? And I was like, I would kill to be there for that show. And everybody of my family and friends in Chicago went, but Sarah was pregnant with her second kid, so I couldn't go. And I couldn't leave my pregnant wife, who was about to burst in a matter of days. And so I was walking around Target watching every bootleg live stream I possibly could to like hear them do it. And I was like, holy fuck, they're playing Skulls. Holy fuck, they're playing Hybrid Moments. This is amazing. And then when I found out that they were doing the Chicago show, Sarah agreed. She's like, look, you need to shut the fuck up about this. Go live your lame fantasy of seeing your band. This is your Christmas present. And I was like, thank you. And so I got a super cheap flight. I got a flight for $68.
Wow.
Up there. And I was like, since I got that plane ticket so cheap, I decided that I was going to take Amtrak going up. And so I pulled some freelance work out of the ether and did that. And so I got to ride Amtrak, which was a very interesting experience. Lots of weird people, but lots of very nice people as well.
What type of strange were we talking about?
If like the people who ride in the sleeper cars are pretty fucking normal, because it's a lot of like retirees just wanting to get out and see the country. And like I met this really lovely couple from Belgium, and they were great. And we had because when you have meals, they seat you with strangers, because if you're by yourself like I was, they're like, hey, you're gonna eat with them. And I'd met a lot of great people through those conversations. Now when I went out of the dining car into the observation car where anybody can sit, through Texas and Arkansas and everything, it was a really interesting cavalcade of people. I met, like I said, I'd met some sales guys. I met a sales guy who was like, look, I drove down to Austin and I didn't want to be home. Like, I didn't want to immediately try to get back. So his home was in Dallas. And he's like, yeah, it's like a 6-hour trip, and it could have been 2 hours in the car. But he's like, you know what? I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to get a bunch of work done, and I get to watch the scenery. I was like, that's a pretty good idea, man. And he goes, yeah. He's like, it's a working day for me. It's great. And I was like, that's cool. And so he and I talked, and then I met all these great people. But when you start getting into the nighttime, when people start going to sleep and they're sleeping in those like coach sized seats and stuff, like I met an old trucker, and he was like hitting on, I moved into the observation car to just, I needed to get out of my roomette. I needed a change of scenery. So I brought my books and I brought my laptop and was working. And then the chick he was talking to, I like noticed that he's like giving her crackers, and he's
what was she, a pillet?
Well, no, he's got a duffel bag, and he's pulling out crackers, and he's buying beers. He's like, hey, go down to the little, because they had a little commissary down there, and you could buy beers and little bottles of liquor and stuff, and he keeps giving her money to go get them. But she keeps talking to me. She's like, what are you reading? I'm like, The Best of Mike Royko. He's a Chicago legend, fantastic columns and stuff. And it turns out that she was a stripper who went to jail somewhere, and this old trucker and her were talking, and he keeps buying her beer, and like we stop, and she gets out to have a smoke, and I'm just sitting there, I'm just drinking my one beer, and with all my shit, and she gets off, and he goes, "Man, you cock blocking me, you know that?" And I was like, what? He goes, "Man, I'm trying to fuck." I was like, yo, I'm just like not about that life. I'm like, look, I'm married with kids. I'm on my trip, and I'm just talking. I was like, just not of like trying to. He's like, "Man, I got my rubbers. We're gonna go down up my seat." I was like, yo, the fact that you want to have sex on a train, like not in a room around other people that are probably sleeping aisles away, is just fucked up and weird. So I was like, yo, I gotta go, because there's like, it's raining. We're in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. I'm like, I'm going back to my room. So
Do you know what happened to the lady? Did she go?
I saw her. I
Okay.
actually saw her when I was at Union Station. We pulled in, and I was waiting for my mom because she came and picked me up. And she walked past me and smiled and waved, and I was like, well, she's not dead.
That's
And
good.
I didn't see the old guy, so I don't know how that whole thing shook out, but
Oh, fuck, he might be dead.
yeah, he might be. I mean, I didn't hear about a murder on the train. So
How cool would that have been, though, if someone had died, like, gotten fucking homicided? That's not how you say that, but oh well. If there was a homicide on the train, man, that would have been pretty cool.
do you want to hang out and do some crimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that all shook out, and I wasn't sticking around to find out. Like I said, I'm not. When somebody's like that hard up, and he's like, "Man, I got women all around this country," I stop, and he's like, "You got a woman back there?" And I was like, "No, dude, I'm just by myself." He's like, He's like, "What do you do again?" I was like, "Well, I'm a writer." He goes, "That's what you do for a living?" I was like, "Yeah, man, that's my job." And like, he couldn't wrap his head around that, and he was telling me about how he's got a system for organizing baseball cards. He's like, "I patented it and everything."
What's the system?
I don't remember it, but he was like explaining it to me of like how he can file any kind of baseball card. He's like, "You know Beckett?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I know Beckett. What kid didn't collect baseball cards?" And he's like, "Man, they stole that shit from me." He's like, "I got it trademarked, and I'm gonna sue them." I was like, "You got it trademarked?" He's like, "Fuck yeah, I got it trademarked." He's like, "I've had this system since 1996, and I've got it trademarked and everything." And I'm like,
He shows you, and it's just alphabetical orders.
it was like he showed me. He like pulled up his Facebook, and his Facebook, that banner image was how to do his thing. And he's like, "I've had that shit since like 1996. I'm like, "Yo, you could probably sue Beckett." I was like, "You get rich." I was like, "How much money does a card collecting magazine have in 2019? But chase your dreams, my man."
Okay, this is my system. Okay, I patented this. So you get every guy whose last name begins with A, and you put him in the beginning. And then you go, and anyone who begins with B, you put him after A. And you just keep going to Z. And that's my system.
Like, he's like, "And then I do it by team." I'm like, okay. And so, yeah, that was an interesting thing. And I after that, and then I got off. We were 5 hours late coming into Chicago, and then pretty much from there, all I did was eat gross Chicago food. I had one healthy meal. I met Garrett Schulke and did his podcast, and we were originally supposed to do it at the Billy Goat. And since he's like this massive, tall dude like me, and he had like a traveling bag and all this other shit, they're like, "Yo, what are you doing in here?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do an interview." And they're like, "You can't do an interview in here. We just got like," he like asked him if he could do it, and then like they thought that his bags were like full of equipment and stuff, and he's like, "No, man, it's not what's in there." And he's like, "It's just my stuff." And so they wouldn't let us do it. We go to this other place, and he literally pulls out a recorder the size of smaller than an iPhone. And I was like, "Man, you got all that for your little recorder?" And so
What did he have in the bags then?
I don't know. It was just his clothes and stuff, because he came from Grand Rapids to Chicago for the weekend. And he had this big like military duffel bag on his back. And I was like, "Damn, his dude's got like a whole array of recording equipment." I was like, "He got like 5 different mics or something?" And he pulls it out of his pocket, and it's just tiny little recorder. And I was like, "That's the craziest shit." But I saw him, and like I had a veggie burger at the place we ate at, but beyond that, everything I ate in Chicago was just like riccobenis and beef sandwiches and hot dogs and lots of pizza. and
Right.
drinking and hanging out. Like I ate like shit the whole time I was there, and I didn't even like try because like when you go home, you're like, I want all of the things I can't get in Texas.
Yeah, I get it, man.
So
I do the same thing when I go back home.
yeah, it was just nothing but all like the comfort foods. And so day of the show, we got a hotel room and then thanks to you, and we got our hotel room and we immediately went to the bar. We started pre-gaming in Wicker Park because we took the L out to the Rosemont Horizon. They played like not in the city. They played out in Rosemont, which sucked. But it's decided to snow and sleet that day. So we
Of
pre-gamed
course
at
it did.
yeah, we pre-gamed at Tuman's and we went out for his Tuman's is yuppie bullshit now. So we went to Rainbow. We drank at Rainbow, and then closer to game time, like, all right, we got to hop on the L. We got to go. At some point, me and my two friends were like, holy shit, we got to pee really bad. And so we jumped off the L at somewhere around Harlem Avenue, ran to a Shell station in the snow. They had one bathroom. We turned the corner. A woman is just peeing with the door wide open. And she's like, it's okay. And I was like, no, it's not. We just turned around and ran.
It's
And
okay.
yeah, she just was peeing with the door wide open. I was like, why would you do that? And so
Maybe it
we,
was one of those like mile high situations. You just sit and you wait until someone comes in.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
we ran out of there like within like we were ready to pee our pants. And we like next door was a Wendy's. We ran into the Wendy's and there's two toilets and we were just like, oh, we don't care. And all three of us were just peeing. Me and Preston shared a toilet. Ben hit the urinal. It was just like a race to the finish. We got back on the L, made it over to the venue. We saw a bunch of my brothers were there, a bunch of friends of ours were there, and we just stood outside and drank while we were waiting for them to get ready. We didn't watch any of the openers. And then when Fear came on, I knew I like Fear, but I wasn't, the record is a good record. It's a classic punk record, and I love it.
I can
But
only think of the one song from them, which is the
oh,
obvious song.
yeah, I love Living in the City.
Yeah, which is untrue. I don't live in a city, so I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They played all the hits, but it just didn't translate to the room because nobody was there to watch them. And
Yeah, it's like, come on, move on. We want to see the Misfits. Let's do it.
yeah, we paid a fuckload of money to be here. Come on, get on with this thing. And so when they came out, man, it was like rarely do we want something so bad to pay off. I mean, rarely do we want something so bad and it actually pays off. When you get to see something that you built up in your head so much and you're like, oh, if they ever play, I'm going to be there and it's going to be the best thing ever. Because a lot of times you see somebody and you're like, it was good. And no, they delivered 100%. It was all the hits. Danzig was actually smiling, and I've seen Danzig a lot, and he was smiling and he was bantering with the crowd, and he like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and just banging
Yeah.
them out. They played 30 songs, like
Wow.
minus maybe 2 or 3 songs, maybe 2 that I didn't get to hear. Like I would have loved to have heard American Nightmare, but I knew they weren't going to play that, and I would have loved to have heard. I'm trying to think. I can't like off the top of my head. If I had like the records in front of me, I could be like, oh, I wish they would have played that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's how good the set was. Where their
Wow.
encore was, it was She, Hybrid Moments, Attitude, We Are 138, and I'm like, how do you like? Those are all 4 of my favorite songs back to back to back. And so they just did it, and I was so happy when they first started playing that I cried. I was like. I got to actually do this thing that I've wanted to do since I was, a kid, and it paid off. It wasn't shitty. They didn't phone it in. They played as hard as they could. Jerry only came out of a fucking coffin.
Oh my god.
He was doing power slides across the stage.
Yeah.
And, like I accidentally punched a guy into the face. And
Oh, did he die?
no, he didn't die, but he goes, hey, it was like this really timid guy behind me. And like me and Ben, like Preston had already seen him. So he went to the Riot Fest show. So he was in it. but he wasn't as enamored as we were. So this was his second time in.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Ben are like, holy fuck. Like we're arming around each other, screaming songs and like going horse. And I going for one of those reach around to Ben's neck. I guess I clocked the dude that was behind
Oh
him.
man.
And he's like, you hit me in the face. I was like, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited.
And
And
you a big man. That had to have been painful.
yeah, he played it off because he was like, probably like 5'5". And so
I
he
thought you were gonna say he was probably 5. You punched a child in the face.
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of emotions going on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they played and they delivered, and I'm staring at my commemorative poster that I got at the show, and it still it was everything I wanted. And then we went out after that and basically stayed out till 6 o'clock in the morning because the exit the bar we were at was just playing the hits all night, and
Yeah.
it was a good one.
That sounds like the perfect night.
Again, rarely do you have an experience with something and you want it so bad to be good,
Yeah.
and everything that night just worked.
All right, you get a chance to join the Misfits. What spooky name do you pick?
No, I'm too much of a purist. I just keep my stupid writer name.
God damn it, Bobby. Okay.
A Bobby Skulls. Get out. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah, Bobby Scolds. That's your new name. What have you been reading lately?
I am actually juggling a couple of things. I'm still working on the best of Mike Royko, which is incredible if you're into columns and into really sharp, biting stuff. Like when growing up in Chicago, he was the voice of the city, and now going back, like when I was a kid, I got it for a certain point, but now as an adult, I'm reading, I'm like, fuck, he was so good. Like, how did this guy write 7,500 columns? Every day of the week he wrote a column. And so for 35 years, there's an entire document of the growth of Chicago through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, ultimately till his death in 97. So I'm reading that. What is the hard case? I'm reading a hard case crime book. I can't. What is it? Let me see. It's over here on my desk.
Okay.
I am reading. It is Cocktail Waitress, the final novel by James N. Cain.
Okay.
And then I also have Why the Ramones Matter on my desk. And here's Troy James Weaver's Temporal. And then what else is right here? The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Kind of bouncing between all of these at the same time.
Makes sense. I do the same. I can't focus on one book at a time. I always have a multitude of different things stacked up on my desk. We have definitely run out of time at this point, so how can folks find you online, Bobby?
I am on all social media platforms. You just look up Robert Dean.
You on Snapchat?
I'm not on Snapchat, so I guess I'm not on.
I guess you fucking lied.
I'm not on Pinterest either, so I'm
Okay.
on Instagram, which is just pictures of food and books, pretty much. The occasional self-promotion of an article. Twitter is just Robert_Dean, and then actually my Instagram is Robert Dean 138.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've changed it like 5 times, and every time I try to get it like whittled closer to Robert Dean, it just like there's somebody else with the name. So
Those goddamn son of a bitches.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I have a Facebook thing, and it's a very robust community of people who talk to each other and talk shit to each other. So
Nice. Thank you, Bobby, for doing this. This was a great episode. I didn't know so much about the Misfits going into this, despite listening to them pretty much all my life. So this was interesting.
I appreciate you asking me to do it, and I'm happy to educate the public at large.
Thank you for listening to Ghoulish. Did you like what you just heard? Want to listen to these episodes daily instead of weekly? Well, you are in luck, Daddy-O, because over on Patreon, we've announced a new stretch goal. Once we begin making 1,000 bones a month, we will begin releasing Ghoulish 5 nights a week. That's 1,000 bones, my sweet, beautiful, spooky children. Now go on over to patreon.com/PMM Publishing to pledge now, today, right this second, don't wait. You can also follow this show at GhoulishPod.com and tweet at us at GhoulishPod. Please rate and review us on iTunes, and do not forget, whatever you do, live spooky, die spooky.